Are you ready to decrease your visceral fat? The fat that's around your organs that's really impacting you, that has the risk factors of causing diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, all kinds of problems. The visceral fat is what we're after. Body fat, that's the fat that you see on the outside. But what's really wreaking havoc is what's on the inside. So on today, we're going to go after the visceral fat. Now, you may be wondering, how can I tell how much visceral fat that I have? Well, one of the things you can do is take your belly measurements. So do your waist circumference, right? How big is your waist? Men, if your waist is over 40 inches, you probably have increased risk of having visceral fat. Women, if your waist circumference is over 35 inches, you too may have an increased risk of visceral fat. So why am I talking about this? Because there's so many risk factors associated with it, and you're not even thinking about it because many of you are thinking about, well, what about the fat on the back of my arms? What about the fat on my hips? What about the fat in my waist? That I get. That's not, you don't feel good about it because you cannot see it. But the visceral fat is what we're going to go after. And how do we go after that? By going after that other part, that body fat. So let's talk about what can you do. Number one of the things you can do is decrease your fat consumption. You know, many of my clients go and they eat a lot of nuts, right? And they'll eat the avocado because that's healthy fat. Well, what we want to do is burn the fat that we already have, right? So let's decrease the consumption of fat. Next, what I'd like to do is replace those sugary beverages, right? Reduce the consumption of those sugary beverages, your teas, your sodas, your fruit punches, the things that have too much sugar in them. We want to replace that with water, right? And I know many of you are like, well, I just can't stand drinking water. I know. How about let's create some spa water? Put a few little mint leaves in there, a little cut up fruit or a little bit of berries and some lemon wedges, and sip on your spa water. Take a drink and be like, oh, this reminds me of the spa. Let's increase our drinking of water. Next, I want you to think about this. As you are eating different things, many people like to drink alcohol. You know, you like to have a sip of wine at night, or maybe you have a little bit of whiskey or cognac or whatever the case may be. We're going to have to decrease to eliminate that. I know you may not be wanting to do that, but when you decrease that, so if you want to bring down that belly fat, we've got to cut back on and even consider eliminating the alcohol you're consuming. As we move on, I want you to think about increasing your protein. How much protein is in your diet? How much are you eating? If you don't have any problems with your kidneys, then I would highly recommend that you get like half of your body weight in protein. Now, I don't want you to go all willy-nilly with it. So if you weigh about 180 pounds, getting about 90 grams of protein would be great. But that's just a rough estimate. If you look at your plate and you know that you don't have enough protein on it, or you're eating more carbs and more veggies, well, we need to add some protein in there. Getting more protein is so very important. Next, we want to talk about getting up and moving, getting some exercise on board. Definitely consider resistance training and cardio. The more we get to moving, the better off. But if you just want to walk, then get up and walk. The idea of getting things moving definitely helps to decrease the visceral fat, so decreasing that body fat, right? Next, I want you to think about how well are you sleeping? Are you waking up well rested? Like, oh, this is a great day. Did you keep hitting the snooze on the alarm button? What are you doing? If you're not getting enough rest, well, that's going to lead to more likelihood of you having increased body fat, which leads to increased likelihood of you having more visceral fat. And we're all about decreasing the visceral fat along with decreasing that body fat. As we think about rest, many people during this time are just overwhelmed with so much stress. They're stressed about finances, stressed about health, stressed about caring for a loved one, stressed about the pain they have in their body. There's so many different factors that impact our stress. But what are you doing to decrease your stress level? Are you doing yoga? Are you journaling? Are you meditating? Are you going out in nature, doing hikes and feeling just at ease and maybe forest bathing? Are you taking the time to just relax and listen to your favorite book? What are you doing to decrease your stress level? As you decrease your stress level, that definitely helps, because when your stress level is off, you end up increasing your cortisol hormone. And cortisol, well, that's a fat storing hormone, and we're trying to get rid of the fat. So if the cortisol is off because you're not rested and you're too stressed out, well, that increases your likelihood of gaining weight. So we have to do things that help us decrease our stress level. In essence, help us keep that cortisol level where we'd like for it to be. I also want to point out that intermittent fasting, That is definitely a big game changer. And we're going to talk about that in our next video. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, definitely push the subscribe button, do a comment, let us know how we're doing, because what we want to do is help you be the best you that you can possibly be. Not that you have to, but that you get to. Until the next time, I'm Dr. Tamika saying stay tuned because there's more to come.